that either you went out of your comfort zone, that you did something to be with a family member, or that a family member went out of their way. That's just not, look, oh yes, good, Rick, yes, and that person went something to did for you. You're going to get this, I promise.
I had situations both in my life when I've had to talk someone else out of suicide.
Oh, wow.
And I've had situations in my life when someone else has had to talk me out of suicide.
Wow.
So
wow.
It gives you a different perspective on
It
that.
does, both sides.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm glad they did talk to you about it. Frenchie.
Well, same type of a situation, only they had attempted to commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
And it was a sister of my first wife, and we lived at least, I think, 150 miles from them. We heard about it like at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, jumped in the car and took off right away down.
Wow.
All right, yes, Bill.
Back in 2007, we had a house fire, and my son was severely burned. He was burned over 50% of his body. When we got him to the hospital, they gave us a 20% chance that he was going to live. He's with us today.
Okay.
And he's fine. But the neighbors, the church, there was so much love that was given to us. People that didn't know us, came and gave us their love and gave us this house.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, Kendall.
First of all, we're not getting anything out of the speakers. So we're
Pardon me? Oh,
We can't hear.
Yeah,
I like that really story.
uh,
Kendall, you want to share a story while we're waiting?
yeah, because I've got a nice big voice. So when I was going through chemo, one of the drugs that they were giving me had a 50-50 shot of making me have a psychotic break. And so if it was going to help me, it was going to help me a lot, but it could have driven me crazy too. So my family took turns staying up with me all night for 2 nights straight, because they had to make me stay awake to make sure it wasn't going to drive me mad, literally. So I just remember my oldest brother, who he and I have had, up to then, it's kind of been a rocky relationship. But now he and I have a totally different relationship. The way he poured love into me 2 nights in a row, sitting with me from midnight to 6 a.m. And then he went to work right afterwards. I have to tell you, our relationship is so much stronger. And I think I poured into him because now he's going to church and things that he wasn't before. So it was special. And I didn't go crazy. I don't
Glad to hear that. Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right, Herb.
I was going to say this past weekend, on Saturday, I had all of my daughter and both granddaughters with me, and my grandson's still staying with me. 4 trips to the airport got to be a little bit. Wow.
But it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
It's worth it. It is.
Everybody knows that because I got Facebook and I don't use it. So.
I know. Newsflash. Yeah, look at you go, Doug.
On a lighter note, this past weekend, I went with my wife to the largest Christmas warehouse in the state of Texas.
That's amazing. Now, did you complain? No, he didn't struggle. Oh, okay.
Anybody else? You got Frenchie, go for it.
Okay. There was a person from church here who was having some operation in a hospital, and which one was it? I forget which. But anyway, that's not important. Anyway, I was there with a couple other people from our church, from our Sunday school class, and we were waiting to hear, how you wait. Everybody that's waited for operation knows how that goes. And we're sitting there, and this couple, or no, 3 people came out, and they were obviously from Eastern, it looked like either India, Pakistan, somewhere like that. And two of them were two big, rough-looking guys and this little gal. And they came in and sat down, and they looked very troubled. So one of the people in our Sunday school class, one of the ladies got up, went over to her, and sat and talked with her for at least a half an hour, 45 minutes. I have no idea what she said. But I thought that was really, I mean, here's a little gal really by herself with a couple of guys, But yeah, I thought that was a very wonderful Christian act.
Outreach. Perfect. When I think of, like I said, when I read this guy, I'm thinking, I can't ever compare life stories with you, because you're crazy. I mean, you do some things that you don't do those things. But when I thought about this, when he talked about this love that he had for his son, that this desire to be with his son, it brought back a story to me when my son was already from college, and my daughter was a freshman over at College Station. And it was her first, and I would make a big deal out of birthdays. Birthdays are big. And so this was going to be her first birthday away from home. And her birthday happened to fall on a Thursday. And so I was telling her, it's okay, Mandy. I'm not going to be there, but I'll see you on Friday. You're going to come home for the weekend. We'll have your big celebration. It's going to be fine. And she was real quiet. And she's like, okay, I understand. I'm in college now. I'm a big grown-up now. And I'm like, yeah, you are. It'll be fine. But Wednesday night of that week, before I went to sleep, I just had this pulling, this tugging on my heart that I needed to do something different. And so I knew her brother was living over there already, and he was going to take her to breakfast before class that day. And so I called him up and woke him up, and I said, I'm coming over in the morning. Don't tell Mandy. Have her come to your house to pick you up, and I will come. And so when I got there, Mandy was sitting in her truck waiting for her brother to come downstairs, and I am like I'm waiting, and I'm looking, and I get behind the truck, and I'm waiting for her to realize I'm there. And it is a moment that is just ingrained in my heart. When she looked in the rearview mirror, and I could tell she was having a little snarky look first, like, who's parking behind me? But then the realization that I was there. And she got out of her truck, and just tears were coming down her eyes. And she said, I'm so glad you came. And we only had breakfast. I said, I've got to get back. And you have class. You don't cut on your birthday. But I think with that, when I think of his story, I'm not going to jump out of an airplane. But I know it's kind of crazy. No. But I think for that day, I knew that God called me to go out of my comfort zone, get in a car, and get to College Station early. And I think that when I read this chapter, that's just what resounded in my soul. And so, and I think that's what God's calling us to be. So, going back to the thing, I love that. God was with us so that we would be with each other. And what I love about that quote is, like, I can take that as, like, God is with me so that he and I can be together. And that's kind of, like, narcissistic and egotistical. We need to broad range that. That if God is with Cheryl and God is with me and we're all together, it's even richer. That when we broaden that thing to understand that God is with everyone, and when we invite him into our lives and lean into that, and I go out the extra mile to be with somebody, then God meets us together there. And it's like a big party. So, in this book, in this chapter, he talks about skydiving. We saw the movie last week, and we had the whole skydiving thing. And I love when he had said, Jesus did something a lot like what I did with Adam. He jumped out of heaven to be with us. And I guess I just never thought of it that way. That he actually, that he went the way extra mile, eternity, and stepped out to make sure that we could be with him. All right, and so I told you this for the first time. I go on Wednesday nights, and I have quotes that I hand out to my youth, and then there's scriptures I hand out to my youth. So I handed out some quotes, and I'm going to be periodically calling on somebody, and their number just to help you and to help me. So who has number 1, and I need you to read it loud and clear. Yes, I love when you're first.
She took a leap and built her wings on the way down.
Did y'all hear that?
No.
Stand up, Cheryl.
She took a leap and built her wings on the way down.
Okay, so my question is, what keeps us from leaping?
Don't know how to build wings.
I don't know how to build wings. Rick said fear. What else keeps us from taking that leap?
Anxiety.
Same thing.
Anxiety,
Lack of faith.
afraid, lack of faith.
Common sense.
I know. And I think when we don't do things also, especially if it's a spontaneous thing, it's like, well, they don't really know I was going to do it anyway, so I'm not going to get in trouble if I don't do it. I mean, Mandy had no idea that I was contemplating this. She was just, we were both blessed that I took that step. But I think that's what keeps us from doing it. Yes, Doug?
Inertia.
Inertia? And able to move? This is where science was so totally not my thing. Explain what you mean by that, inertia.
It's easier to stay where you are than to do something unfamiliar. It's just that it's part of what everyone else has said. The comfortable thing, the easiest thing is just to not do anything.
Very
And I think
true.
the right thing is that's the easiest thing.
Very true. When we were in Israel, how long ago was that, Gerald?
2014.
I am going to use Gerald as a great example of this. Is when we went to Israel, Sharon Roberts and I went together. We were like buddies, and we're like, okay, if we don't want to do something, we've got each other. We can back out. We can do this. And you always had a choice when you went. You rode the bus to wherever you went, and then Jack, our fearless leader, would always say, you have a choice. You can get in the bus and ride it back down, or you can walk it. And I think it was Masada that was the snake trail that I'm like, we're not doing this. I'm like, Sharon and I are basically in agreement. We're not doing, what? Snake trail. And then they're talking about it has all those little, warnings there, if you've got a heart condition, if you have trouble breathing. And I'm thinking, maybe, And I'm thinking the bus may not be too bad. And I can get on the Wi-Fi. And so, but I remember Gerald, we were talking, and Gerald came up to us, and we're like, all right, and we're like, are you doing it? And Gerald's comment has stuck with me ever since. He said, I didn't come to ride the bus.
There you go.
And that was his mantra for the week, is what he kept telling us. But I think for that, it was an experience that you wanted to do. Nobody would have faulted you if you went back to the bus. You might have talked to Sharon and I a little bit. But it was that desire to say, I'm here to do something. I'm here to lead. And we didn't die. We didn't fall out. Oh, we did it. We did it. Yes. I have pictures. I have pictures. I looked horrible. I'm just sweating and just dying. But it was great. We had a great time.
Linda, I have a pedometer, and we went 86 miles.
Thank you. I'm glad you did that, Rick, because
And
I didn't
all
have
of it was up.
I think every bit of it was a 45-degree incline.
Yeah, exactly.
Every bit of it. But it was wonderful.
Or 75 coming down.
Yeah.
It was wretched.
Did you see any snakes?
I didn't see any snakes. I didn't see any snakes at all in Israel. I don't know. They knew
Too
better.
hot.
It was too hot. It was. Yep. Okay. And on page. Okay. Now, so on page 51, it says, when God sent Jesus into the world, He demonstrated He didn't want to just be an observer in the lives of the ones He loved. He wanted to be our participant. He wanted to be with us. Because He loves us. And He says, I do too. And I think, this is my question about this. When I look at this, and He doesn't think about if we're worthy to be with Him. He doesn't think about, is it worth it for Him to be with us? And I always think, my question is, do you think God is disappointed in us?
Yes.
In what way?
And the fact that we continue to sin, even though we know better.
All right. What else? Think about in what ways do you think God is, think about being a parent, that usually puts it into perspective. In what ways do you think God is disappointed in us? Go ahead, Marcia. I feel like I want to put a few more Marcias onto that child wall.
Oh, yeah, Brady Bunch.
Sorry.
I see him forgiving and giving opportunities to be better than we were the day before.
He does. And then we
Do it again.
do it again. We do it again. Yes.
I have a challenge for us.
Uh-oh.
It's pretty easy, but it's easy and it's hard. All of us probably go out to eat sometimes. We have a waitress or whatever, waiter or whatever. How many of us ask that person if we can pray for them and if they have anything they want us to pray for?
All the time or sometimes?
You do it all the time.
I don't do it all. But I do it sometimes.
I've done it sometimes and I've been rewarded at the
Yes,
times I have.
absolutely.
So what keeps you?
Strange.
Well, what keeps you from doing it the other times? I'm not calling you out, Gerald, because you claim that you do it sometimes. What keeps you from doing it all the time?
Same thing keeps me sinning, I guess. I just do it, or don't do it.
All right.
There's no reason, I just don't do it.
Okay.
And another challenge is just to say a prayer yourself in a restaurant.
It's true.
We tend to think, well, this ain't the right place, or we don't want to interrupt people.
Or the waitress is coming and staring at us.
Well, I mean, people are gonna look, but I don't care.
All right.
But I've also seen other people start praying after you do.
That is true.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be eating and stop.
Right.
So it's an example.
It gives the license, like you did with us at the time of Sneak Trail, is to say, I'm in it, how about you? And I think that in a lot of ways in the skydiving, his son was so intent on doing it, and his father, he basically didn't invite his father, but he sure showed him this utter joy that he had jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. You know, of doing this, and his father finally made that decision, I'm here to do it with you. I'm here to be with you. All right?
I'm not that good at that.
No,
My son does it, and I don't.
there's no,
No way.
I would say that plane better be going down before I jump out of it. It's not happening.
I have a story about skydiving.
Okay?
All of us probably get our teeth cleaned. At least I hope you do.
I hope so.
My dental hygienist and her husband jump out of airplanes. That's what they do for a hobby. They go down to Roshare, and she's jumped out of an airplane 1,200 times.
Whoa.
And she told me the first time she did it, her husband literally had to throw her out of the airplane.
Oh, long story. I saw your name up, your hand up there.
I kind of make a distinction on that. I believe in a grieving God. When we act in a way that's contrary to what God wants for us, that really what God does most is grieves for us. And I can tell you where that comes from. My son's a recovering drug addict. He started using at 12, he's now 48. It's been an emotional roller coaster. But I had to learn to make a distinction between my child that I will always love, and he knows that, and disappointment and the behavior, which he understands. And also that he understands that I grieve for him and with him.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Don. Wow. The quote that Cheryl read, what I love about it, says, she took a leap and built her wings on the way down. And I think that sometimes is just what God asks. Just trust me and leap. And I'm going to walk you through this. You know, show me that you trust me enough to leap. And especially when it's the unknown that we leap into. That we can't grab, that we can't hold on to. But he's like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you the tools and the ability to do this. Okay, so, the next one, I got 4 quotes today, so I'm ready. All right, I know, I cannot help this, so whatever you think. Okay, number 2, who has number 2?
I always wondered why somebody didn't do something about that, and then I remembered I am somebody.
All right. All right, anybody have any feelings on that quote?
Yeah, happens all the time.
It does. Somebody else will take care of it. somebody else will do it.
You wind up feeling remorseful forever about it because you didn't do something about it.
We do. Yes, Trudy,
You can also put the emphasis on a little different. I didn't do it because I'm somebody.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is good. I like your take on that. But I think sometimes we just separate ourselves in that situation of saying, that's just a horrible thing that's happening, but I don't feel like I've got a responsibility. Yes, Reed?
Well, a lot of times you think it's not my responsibility, number one, and second, you don't want to get involved. It's a commitment.
That's very true. Frenchie, how long have you been working, you may make this straight, working in the prison? I won't say how long you've been in prison, I'll say how long have you been volunteering in the prison?
About 12 years, going on 13 now.
What called you into doing that?
What caused me to do
What
that?
called you? Why did you do it?
Okay, I'll tell my story then.
I'm here for it.
When I was here, I think Roy James was a minister, and he kept trying to get me into doing different things. He wanted me to get active, and finally talked me into the Stevens ministry. So I went through the studies of the Stevens ministry and all that. And of course, I don't know if any of you know about it, but what you are, you're virtually like a friend to a person that has some difficulties. And that person has to come forward and say, I would like to have a Stevens minister. Wonderful program, and you women are just love it because you want somebody to talk to all the time like that. However, us men, we can take care of our problems. We don't need anybody. So after going through all this, I said, I got assigned one person who was a friend of mine who I was already ministering to, and that was my first assignment. And the second assignment just like, and other than that, men just didn't come forward to say, oh, I need some help. So consequently, I thought about it, and then I looked up and heard about the prison ministry, and I said, shoot, I'll go there. I got a captive audience. And so
I mean, we have those places that we know there's a need, and sometimes it's not as big as you and Jill do, but there are ways that we can connect. And I mean, I think, again, this guy goes over the top. He goes way over the top, and I think to live so boldly. And I'm hoping somewhere in this book he talks about his mistakes, because I got to hear them. There's got to be some mistakes somewhere along the way that he learns from. Not that I want him to fail, but I think it makes him a little bit more approachable to think maybe I want you for a neighbor down the street. Yes?
Are you talking about the author or somebody the author's describing?
The author talks about himself all the time being, you know, he jumps out of planes. He doesn't mind that. Oh, I'm talking about the author. I mean, and if he's ever listening, I don't dislike you as a person. I'm a little intimidated by you because I think that's the problem is we compare ourselves to somebody else and say, I can't do what Frenchie does. I can't do what Gerald does, but there is something I can do. And it might be someplace else, but we need to be open to what we're being called to do and not put the stiff arm up. Okay? All right. Here's your next question. How do we love people that are hard to love? Not everybody raise their hands at the same time. Silent. Okay, Trudy says silently. Nikisha?
Wait, repeat it.
How do we love people that are hard to love?
30 seconds
I think,
at a time.
yeah, I think like the author said, just a little bit at a time. If I can take a little bit today, maybe I can take just a little more tomorrow, or maybe not talk to you tomorrow, and maybe the next day, maybe just extend it a little more, you know. But to work on it, definitely to work on it.
A lot of work.
You know.
Okay. Period.
Just accept them for who they are.
Oh. Okay, we need to hear that. Judy.
Accept them for who they are.
Very good.
But how do you do it?
John?
Sometimes it helps to seek to understand what it is about me that gets triggered by them. I can't change them, but I can change me.
Oh, very good. Write that down for tonight. Mun, this is your first day here. This is Mun.
I think one of the things we need to do is to realize that God has brought that person into our life for a particular reason.
Oh, I know.
You know, have a sense of what it is that we're to learn from it. And one of the things I found out with God is that oftentimes it's a pass-fail test. And if we don't deal with it the first time around, then God will bring another person just like that into our life. Until we pass the test.
Then I'm afraid that he's going to say, you did such a good job with them, wait till you see what you got next. That's what I'm a little worried about. Yes, Rick.
It is loving myself. Sometimes I'm not the easiest person to love either, you know.
Oh, I try to remember that for myself. Yes, Frenchie.
Can I tell another story?
Frenchie, you know what? This Ross is not here. You do
Well,
it.
I'll tell you, when I first came here to church, there was one individual here, very prominent person in the church, and I don't know what it was, but he didn't seem to like me at all. And I sit down, and it was almost like he would ignore me. He would have nothing to do or say with me. And I kept trying, and I kept trying to be nice to him, and I just kept trying to be good and try to communicate with him, but nothing ever seemed to work. Nothing ever seemed to work. Then one day, his wife called, and one of the people in our Sunday school class was in need of some help immediately, and they couldn't get away to do it or whatever it was. But anyway, she asked me if I would do something, and I just dropped everything I was doing and took off and went to see this person. And about noon, my fellow friend that I'd had problems with, he showed up to see how everything was. And he brought some sandwiches, and we sat down, and I guess my action and whatever it did, it thawed the situation out. And we were just perfect after that. Just everything was wonderful after that. But it was just a funny situation. Sometimes, there's people you hit that personalities just don't hit, and that was kind of like we were, but it thawed the whole situation out.
Very good.
You know, a lot of times prominent people have a barrier up that they don't want to let anybody in, thinking, you're going to borrow money, do something, ask for something. So you have to break that barrier sometimes.
And understand what's going on behind the
Yeah.
scenes. Alan,
I love my kids and grandkids.
I'm glad.
Sometimes they do what I like. Sometimes they don't. But I still love them. There's a lot of people in this world that don't like their behavior, but I hope every one of them finds a way to heaven. And, if people would just take the high road and stop letting man turn you into something you don't want to be, Hate generates hate if you let it.
Sometimes it's just us. Like I had a situation this week, last week with the daycare, and I had a guy doing some work for me. And he did the work, and 2 days later, what he did the work on broke. Twice. And so his thing was, I kind of like the bad mechanics. I fixed this, and this went wrong the next day. Oh, that's not what I fixed? Well, a push bar on the door is a push bar on the door. So when I sent him the text message, it was a little hot, but I tried not to make it seem so bad. You tried to charge me another $75 just to come out and fix this push bar again that you just fixed 2 days ago. And so, the guy just kind of went off, and I was like, he's like, the pin popped out, and that wasn't my fault. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry. Maybe you should have explained to me what you fixed the first time. So if a little pin pops out, then I'll know maybe, hey, this is something different. So when I read my text message that I sent him to Superior, and I was like, I'm just having a horrible day. This guy went off on me. This is happening. This is happening. And when I read it to him, Sue goes, whoa, you wrote that? And I was like, oh, okay. You know, and so I had to apologize to him, you know, because maybe I did mean it to sound like that, but not really, you know. So I had to apologize to him. So sometimes it could just be us. Maybe we're that 30 seconds at a time.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
No, I agree. I agree. I think sometimes we don't realize that in some ways we are unapproachable or we're hard to handle. And I think when I look at the world, when we talk about why people don't have a belief in God, and I think sometimes we get pushback. And I think we're at such ease with it because we have, not that it's easy, but we have a comfort of knowing that Christ died for us and that our salvation is sealed. So now let's live into it. But people that don't have that, in some ways we're unapproachable because they don't understand it. They have no clue what this means. And it's like, you know, how, you know, and for them, I think there's sometimes a fear of them asking a question. How do you have this, you know? How do you have this calm about you? How does this happen? And in those ways, as Christians, we are unapproachable because we're not open enough to say, I don't have it all together, and I still fear. I still get nervous. I still, you know, I find myself, you know, getting in a little frenzy going on, and then it's like, okay, back it up to what I know. This is it. Okay?
Good. And that's in prison ministry. In prison, you know, that we go in there and they're incarcerated. They're in a different environment. They meet us for 10 minutes.
Can't hear you. They can't hear you. Be really loud.
I say we go into prison. They're incarcerated. They've had a much tougher life than us most times. And in 10 minutes, like it is in the Emmaus walk, they're supposed to come to us and open up to us. They don't know us. So what do? We just show them love. We don't question them about anything that's private. We just show them love. Talk about other things. And then they begin getting a trust. So I think a lot of times the problem is us. It's kind of like, who's your worst enemy?
Me. Yep.
Hey.
Yep.
So we approach them differently. And if we approach them like we approach the outside, they'd all walk out. Because they're not afraid, but they're very indifferent about coming in anyway. Who are these people? What are they going to do to me? They have no idea. And that's the Christians. That's not the Hindu, Muslim, atheist, agnostic. That's the Christians.
True.
So I think it's us. If we showed everybody the love, if I showed everybody the love on the outside that I show on the inside, I'd have lots of friends. Lots of acquaintances and a lot more joyful life.
Very good.
That's a lesson I need to learn, and I'm still learning it.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. I do, because that's honesty, and it's one of those in your face. I mean, I think with, like I said, this is not my forte. And I think, but I love talking to youth, and I think what is different? I'm sharing my love of God with a group of friends. And if I could, you know, just think of it that way, but it didn't save me when I walked in here and was thoroughly intimidated. So
Linda, he's the guy that wouldn't get on the bus.
I know, but I went with him. I followed him. We got on the bus and only going uphill. Yes, Alan.
If you look at the Bible, all the people that Jesus chose were enemies of men because they were all killed by men. Jesus came to save us, and he was an enemy to man, and they killed him. So if you become a true disciple of Christ, you become an enemy to man. And
But he
if you
didn't.
tolerated all your life, wind up happy. You don't?
Maybe in some places in this world you will be
I've been told I
despised.
want to help.
Y'all need to speak up.
Let us in on it.
Yeah, I mean, what he
that's
just
not
said,
for a friend.
in some places in this world, you definitely will be risking your life to go and proclaim that Jesus is Lord and that you're a Christian. Certainly not in Richmond, Texas, but if you do it in some places in the world, you definitely would be risking your life, so you become an enemy to that culture. But I've never been hated because I'm a Christian, not here, not today. I don't know, I have mixed feelings about what you just said.
I do too. I don't think that you hate man. I mean, God loves us, so why would you hate him? You know, it's kind of like, I hate the fact that I am easily influenced by things that aren't godly. And that I hate. And I go and do it anyway. And that's bad on me, but it's not bad on God, and it's not bad on everybody else. We live in a world where there is so much, glitter. And if you get into that glitter, which means just all the stuff, then you're hurt real bad. But that doesn't mean that you hate man. You know, we're told to love everybody. I love people. I may not like them. You know, that may be, you know, I try real hard not to hate people, even if they cut me off up there on I-10 or 98 while they're texting, you know. But I try to love people. I try. I don't hate people. I hate the fact that I am influenced by things that I should not let influence me. So it's on me, not on man.
But you
When you
might
say-
be mistaken the word hate. What did Jesus say? He
Love
said,
your
hate.
enemies.
Love your enemies.
He also said, hate your mother, hate your father. Love me.
Love them less.
Yeah, it doesn't mean hate. Hate doesn't necessarily mean hate.
Separate.
Right, Don? Am I stepping out wrong or?
Yeah,
Help me out here. Help me out, bro. But I mean, hate, don't hate them, just love me more.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
So, you know,
Don't ask John, that's the man that jumps out of a good airplane.
that's why I asked you.
Mother less, not hate. Why did they put that in there?
Maybe the translation is off.
I'm just a student here, okay?
Well, I would ask her, but he told me to ask you.
Don Story, you had your hand up. You've been like,
I learned at an early age that, and I'm talking preschool, because vacation Bible school primarily, that Jesus loved me unconditionally. And when I read the Bible, I see his ministry more going to those that were different from the religious organization, religious leaders of the day. The second way that I learned was through my dad. My dad was one of the most compassionate people that I've known throughout my life. And if he ever distinguished between anybody, I never heard it and I never saw it. And I'm talking back in the 50s, it bothered my dad that the black men who worked for him had to go around to the back of the cafe while he ate his lunch in the cool air-conditioned building. And I still remember him talking about that. So I think that really helped me individually, but it certainly helped me as a pastor to be receptive to all people. The other thing about talking about people of different faiths, I spent 11 years of my ministry career as a hospice chaplain, and I found that it really has a lot to do with how you approach people regardless of where they are in their spiritual journey. I know some ways not to do it, but if you approach it from the point of view of, tell me about your journey, tell me about your life, how did you come to this place, and you know, what have been your struggles and what have you. I've dealt with atheists, I've dealt with Wiccans, you know, the full gamut. And I've dealt with a lot of people that society in general would prefer not to deal with. And I just count it a real blessing.
Yes, Lane.
One of my biggest concerns in my life is, in my extended family, I'm not sure some of those people are going to go to heaven. And so, you know, I pray for them, and the message I get back is God's telling me they got to do it for themselves. You can't do it for them. But I still pray that they will worship God, you know, and love Him. And I need to figure out a way to talk to them and, you know, make my point with them, but they don't want to talk to me about that. And so it's worrisome to me, because I want all my family and everybody in this room to go to heaven.
We're going.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be okay, but I'm not sure about the rest of them.
Well, but I mean, think of this, Lane, as Don just talked about it, and it correlates with what Gerald said. It's about relationship, and I think we don't have to just Christianese our ways into a conversation. It's sharing your story. It's sharing your life.
Found out that, you know, my work is telling about me.
Yes.
I'm a good Christian.
Because they know you.
And I believe this, believe that, and, you know, hopefully that will help them change their mind.
And they've watched you go through struggles.
Yeah.
And they've seen you keep your faith. So.
Well, we just can plant seeds and encourage people. God's the only one that can judge you.
Exactly.
Thank God.
He does the wooing. I've already been told that. He does the wooing. I'm saying. Yes, Lynn.
In the latter part of that second chapter, one of the things that struck me, which relates to this, is, you know, he said, just show up, but don't teach. And yeah, it's just what you said. Just maybe talk about yourself, your story.
Yes, Munn.
Saint Francis said, preach the gospel always, use words if necessary.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of times it's how we live our life that's most important, not necessarily the things we say.
Very good.
And anyway, you don't know how God's judging those people.
And that's not our place.
That's not our place. I mean, maybe God knows more about your extended family or I have a brother that I worry about. But he probably knows more about what's within his heart than I do. I see his grossness. I get so angry with him, but it doesn't do a daggum bit of good. You know, he gets even angry. So I'm just living. And I figure that God loves him too. And it's not, I can't be the one to judge that God's not going to accept him, because he was baptized, you know. So
the last, page 57 of this first chapter, it says, we don't need a plan to do these things. We don't need to wait for just the right moment. We just need to show up. Lynn just read that. Grab a parachute, and when it's time, jump out of our shoes after people the way Jesus jumped out of heaven to be with us. Sometimes we make loving people a whole lot more complicated than Jesus did. We don't need to anymore. It's just up, down, and out. I am when we do scripture on Wednesday nights, I have the kids read scripture, and it's usually out of the NRSV or the Methodist go by, or we go the NIV. But there are times that the message, when Eugene Peterson penned the message, I think he was talking to me. He's like, okay, Linda, you need to get this. So let me give it to you on your terms. And so, out of this, I will read Philippians chapter 2, starts with verse 1. It says, if you've gotten anything at all out of following Christ, if his love has made any difference in your life, if being in community of the Spirit means anything to you, if you have a heart, if you care, then do me a favor. agree with each other, love each other, be deep-spirited friends. Don't push your way to the front. Don't sweet-talk your way to the top. Put yourself aside and help others get ahead. Don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. Forget yourselves long enough to lend a helping hand. I mean, that preaches. I mean, to me, that just puts it down to, when I read the Bible, sometimes I put my own spin on things, which I know is wrong. But when I read this, I'm like, okay, Eugene, maybe, I think when you wrote this, maybe you had me in mind to say, this is the way, grasp it, put it all aside. If you're getting anything out of the love that you are receiving from Christ, then turn around and give it to somebody else. Okay? So we're going to move on to the next chapter. I don't even know how I do on time. I don't even know how Ross does this, so I should pay attention more in the back. I'm just saying that. Okay, so the next one is a question, and we're going to do this rapidly. I know this class likes to get in lengthy conversation, but we're going to do this rapidly, so don't overthink it. Don't overthink it, okay? And I always say, June, I'm going to give you the option. Do you want to go this way or this way? Sorry, Cheryl. Okay, so here's my question, and everybody has to answer. And don't think too much about this. And I'll go first, just so that you understand. Tell me something that you don't want in an imitation form. And I will go first, Oreos. I want straight up Oreos. Don't be giving me tuxedos.
Salt. Salt.
Okay, keep going.
What is the question?
Greens.
Okay, the question, once again, I know I'm going to be louder, which I've never been told. What is one thing that you do not want you want the real thing, like Coke, the real thing? You want the real thing, you don't want a substitute. And I said Oreos because they have these things called tuxedos that Walmart puts out, and it's the same thing. And she said salt, and she said greens. I don't like the vegetable.
I had heard your cut.
Okay, so you want to go again? You can go again. Nothing all, yeah, that's really quick. What do you want that's not off brand? But it could be anything else, like anything.
Ice cream.
It doesn't have to be food.
Bluebell.
What?
Bluebell.
Bluebell. It can be like perfume or cologne if you don't want that fake stuff. All right. We're going right. Lee, I will get to you. All right, I'm sorry. I won't move away. Sorry. I know I just did that.
I told you you could run.
Okay, go ahead, Rick. Y'all don't overthink this, guys.
Potato chips.
Oh, yeah.
True love.
Oh, look at you go, Kenny. All right. Cream.
Oh,
Yeah. Sugar. Okay.
butter. I just want butter.
All right, Lynn.
Coke.
Obviously.
Coke.
Yep.
Sincerity.
Oh, very good.
Salad dressing.
Oh, yeah. Don?
Bacon.
Don't give me that fake stuff.
Mayonnaise, I don't like salad dressing.
Salad dressing, yeah.
There's something wrong with that. Okay, I'm losing my, we got
Okay.
turpentine. Don Short.
Nestle's Crunch.
Oh, that's
I don't want to substitute.
Yes.
It doesn't crunch, just don't taste the same.
Ice cream. Bluebell ice cream.
Oh, yeah. All right, wait a minute. Lee Tripe, I'm going to get him in the back because he stood up a while ago to make sure I saw him.
Imitation crab meat, I can't say.
Oh.
It's real
All
crab.
right. Melanie.
Mexican food.
Oh, yeah. You gotta have real stuff.
Any seafood from Louisiana.
Yeah. Very good.
Meat.
All right, ditto.
That's what I
Meat? No fake meat.
Friendship. Friendship.
Oh, look at you. See, some people are so deep. I'm looking at Oreos. I don't care. Doug,
I was gonna say friendship also.
you can say it.
Fresh shrimp versus frozen shrimp.
Oh, yeah.
Mine's ice cream, for sure.
So you're going for the Bluebell ice cream or just like fake ice cream?
Yeah, yeah, the
Like
sugar-free
ice
stuff.
milk?
Yeah, the sugar-free stuff, no, it's nasty.
All right, Brad.
I agree. Imitation coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Friendship.
Friendship, very good.
think coffee.
Okay.
Sugar.
Cheese.
Oh,
Relationships.
Very good.
Sugar.
I'd have to say Louisiana crawfish. Don't give me that Chinese stuff.
Associations.
Very good. All right, Lane, you've had lots of
Yes,
time.
I didn't hear the question. I was in the bathroom.
Oh, Lane, tell me something that you don't want imitation, like, and it could be food, or you can go deeper, like something that you want the real thing.
Cliches.
All right?
What is it?
Chocolate.
There's no point in eating fake chocolate, ever, ever. I don't know why they invented it. It's fake. Frenchie.
Understanding God's word.
Oh.
They both almost stole my thunder.
Sorry.
Understanding.
Well, that's because
Okay.
that's how they time to think.
I know, I don't like fake snow. It's gotta be the real stuff. It's not right.
No, real honest love.
Oh, very good.
What did you say?
What did she say?
Real honest love.
Oh, well.
Sissy.
Well, see, they had time to think.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, Pat, come on.
You can talk to Jude about that.
All right, so I guess I have two answers. So my first one will be honesty. So I like for people to be honest, even when it hurts. But the second one is Del Monte green beans. I need the Del Montes, not the generic.
Something wrong about it.
What about Christ?
Oh, very good. The real thing. That is a deep one. Okay, so he starts off his thing. It's it doesn't matter what our faith looks like. It matters what it is. And so I gave Takesha. Woo, number 3. You're up. Use your big voice because I know you have that strong voice.
Yes, 7 kids. Okay, authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embrace who we are. And that's by Brené Brown.
Whew. I love that. I love that. Okay, you want her to repeat it?
Oh, I reread it. Want me
You
to
can do
reread
it. It's worth repeating.
Okay.
Come on up here. Use the mic because this is a great one.
Just come in there.
Okay.
Authenticity, which is a word that I had a problem pronouncing. So you can say it again, okay? Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embrace who we are. And that's by Brené Brown.
Wow.
Do yourself.
I love that quote because I think this is how we spend our time. I love his opening thing because I thought, man, Ross, I'm so glad that you brought this up because I have any opportunity to do this. It is out of this chapter. A few years ago, 2013, 5 years ago, my sister and I and my daughter and one of hers, she's got a few, I think that's one's her favorite, went to New York City, and we did the whole city in 5 days. And I mean literally the whole city in 5 days. And when we went into, instead of the Wax Museum, all I could think of is we had the city pass, which is only worth it if you do a lot of stuff. But we had the city pass, and we went into the Wax Museum. And this was my picture I posted. I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm ready. Here's me and my friend Bruce. It's me and Bruce Willis. And when I posted this picture, they're like, "You saw Bruce Willis?" I'm like, "Kinda." Yeah, I did. Because Rick, oh. So when I thought about that is, I was so, like this giddiness about me seeing this wax replica of him. And I know the people around us probably thought, you girls are ridiculous. Because she took her picture too. I just didn't show it. And so I think with this, it was like, I look at this going, why do we do this? Why? Why do we go for this? So, when I look at this chapter, I'm going to put this down now, but if you everyone look at it, I got it. It might be. It might go back as my screensaver. I won't step on it, don't worry. And I've got it on my computer in plenty places. And so, when we look at that in the quote that she read, tell me what what keeps us from being authentic? From being the person, like she read, I'm going back to it, embrace who we are. Stop trying to be what we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. What keeps us from being that?
Rejection.
Rejection?
Vanity.
I know.
I was gonna say pride.
Just want to impress somebody else, you know, that you're somebody who you're not.
Fear.
Anybody else? Go, John.
We often don't know who we really are, so we can't embrace who we don't know.
What'd you say?
You gotta say it louder, they didn't hear you.
We don't often know who we really are, so we can't embrace who we don't know.
Very good. On page 61, it says, I'm a really good poser. And it says that's probably why I'm a pretty good lawyer. Add that to his list. I'm sorry, I don't have problems with this guy, I'm just intimidated. It says, you see, I know how to fake it really well. And that to me was such a telling statement. Because I think sometimes we fake it really well. Yes, Alan.
It even says in the Bible, when you start caring more for what man thinks of you than what God thinks of you.
Very true. Who are we trying to impress? And I think sometimes we are so overwhelmed by the lives that are living around us because we see, what is it somebody said, we see the feature, but we miss the backstory. We miss what comes before it. I will say, yes, go ahead, Don. Sorry, Don Napa, I don't want you to get worried when I call your name.
Embarrass my mother. And I will have to tell you, I've never made it.
I think sometimes when I look at the biggest mistakes I made in my life was because I was trying to pretend I was somebody I wasn't. And then you get caught up in it, and then you forget who you are to certain people. And I will say, if I feel when I teach youth, and when I'm teaching youth, when I'm talking with them, it is, I'm teaching myself too, because we bring up Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and all those things that people aren't going to post where they lack. People are going to post the best things in their life. They're going to post everything that's going great in their life, and I'm looking at it going, well, Ross is on a river trip, you know, or so-and-so's on vacation, or so-and-so's got a really great marriage, or look at those kids, you know, their kids are all, I mean, for a while there, I had the grandparent envy. Well, everybody else is having grandkids. Doug, why isn't this happening for us, you know? Why am I not having grandchildren? And so I think, I look at that as part of the reason why we end up faking it, because we can't find that deep satisfaction with our own life and exactly how God created us. And then we end up faking it and pretending we're something else. And then we're enthralled by a wax fake person. I might be back to see him again, I don't know.
Our teenage years, that's when we really get pushed into being that way, and many of us don't get over it as we go on.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it, I'm looking at it two ways. One, a lot of times people wanna be better than really what they are.
Of course you do.
But I feel sorry for people that don't think they're as good as they are. And they put themselves down, or don't feel confident. That's just as bad.
And I think it's just as hurtful to God.
Yeah.
Because He created you to be you. And when we cut ourselves down, it's telling God, I don't appreciate who you made me to be, and I don't love that person you made me to be. Yes, Marnie?
Many times you have so many roles, you lose yourself, and you don't really know who you are.
Very good.
Because you're a mother, you're a teacher, you're a parent, you just have so many roles that sometimes you don't know who you are.
That's true. That's very true. All right. So can somebody open up their Bible that actually brought a Bible? I'm looking now. I'm watching y'all. I need to go to Matthew chapter 16, verse 26. Kind of like raise your hand when you get it first. Oh, talk about calling out a pastor. Chapter 16, verse 26. Look, they're the iPhones going on over there. Are you ready, Truby?
Chapter 16, verse 26?
Yes.
Okay. You know what? Little print, okay, here, that's just above 27, isn't it?
It was yesterday.
Well, here it is.
Somebody moved it.
What good will it for a man if he gains the whole world, yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul?
Oh.
Read it again, Truby, with your head up.
Really loud.
What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world, yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul?
I know, that's one of those hard things. So now tell me, what does it mean to be a fake Christian? I'm not saying this is you. I'm saying, what does it mean when, if you're a fake Christian, what does that mean?
You go for just social reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, you come to church just to be seen.
All right.
Or if you have to just tell somebody you're a Christian.
Well, I don't know. You know what? I don't know where it is in the Bible. Maybe Revelations. If you can't remember anything, that's where it is. When Jesus was coming, and all these people flocked to him and said, "Oh, Lord, 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 I did this, and I did this, and I did this." And he says, "I don't know who you are. What did you do good? The fruits of the labor, you know, you were all showed." That's why he beat up that fig tree. You know, when I was younger, well, last year, I was you
were younger last year.
Why in the world he beat up a fig tree? Just sitting out there minding his own business, being a tree. He did it because I had to Google it, not Google, I don't do Google. I did it and read it. There are different types of fig trees, and in the Holy Land area, they have a fig tree that puts out a false fruit before it puts out the real one. So there it was, displaying a lot of false fruits, and he came up, he was hungry and wanted to eat a fig, and it was false fruits, and so he beat it up. And I'd done that kind of much on me. I am totally good. I'm such a good Christian, but what have I ever done with it?
He killed that tree.
Yes, he is.
Well, you know what?
Well, out of season 2.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing?
Actually, they talk about
False or fake Christian?
Sure.
I don't think there is.
Oh,
Either you're a Christian or you're not.
Very good. Oh.
Think about that.
But it's the heart that we can't read, that God knows.
Yeah. And I look at it, when y'all gave me, some of you were pretty quick off of it to tell me what you don't accept as fake. Because I'll tell you, I know the difference between an Oreo and a tuxedo, and I'm not settling for that. But I think sometimes that we will settle for, and I don't mean this in any disrespect, I don't settle for fake God. But I do find myself at times, when I have a propensity to get my own way, that I will lean into a fake God and pretend that that's okay for me. That I can do that because God's going to be okay with that. He's an all-loving God. And he is. That don't misunderstand me. But that doesn't mean that he says, well, you can give me your fake best and I'll be okay with that. You know, he accepts us the way we are, but he wants our authenticness. He wants us exactly who we are, you know, and not pretending to be something we're not. And I think sometimes the world will see us, when I have my youth and I'm teaching them, and I say this in all honesty, I would rather have a youth that is struggling with their faith and grappling with it, because that means they're seeking it and that they want authenticity with it. They want in the reality of, this is who God is for me, not who they were, not who he is to my dad or my mom or my grandfather. They want their own father. And I think sometimes we fall into line, you know. I take in what's told to me and I don't chew on it. And I think some of the best sermons I've ever heard are the ones that make me walk away going, where does that play in my life? What do I need to get out of that so that I can chew on this and to take it in myself? Yes?
I've heard it said that God loves us, each of us as we are, but He's unwilling to leave us that way.
Amen. Amen. Okay, page 60. I know I'm not jumping in, but I know we're getting them here. Okay, page 66. Oh, gosh. Okay, it says, He doesn't want us to just look different. He wants us to become love. It won't be because we talked about who we wished we were over and over again, or because we gave ourselves enough positive affirmations in the mirror. Only love has the power to get us there. And I'm banking on this one. God isn't shaking his head in disapproval as we make our way towards him. He's got his arms outstretched, welcoming us home to him with love. I bet if we could hear him, hear what he's thinking, we'd hear him whispering, "You've got this. Just keep moving toward me." Yeah, that just hit me. I just thought, as much as I know I'm harder on myself, and I am disappointed in myself, that should never keep me from walking into the open arms of God saying, "You've got this. Just keep coming. Just keep coming to me." Another quote. We're not done yet. I got another quote. Number 4. Who's got number 4?
Me?
Yes, Kathy.
I was really hoping you'd forget.
No, I did not forget.
I was going to give it to Don.
He's a good speaker.
I knew he was going to make something up. 4. The inventor of the mirror poisoned the human heart. All right, hear me? Give it again. Frenchie. The inventor of the mirror poisoned the human heart.
When we view ourselves by what we see, we're always going to fall short. That's the way it is. What God, his intention is that we view him through his eyes and what he sees in us. And then, when we can get a grasp on how God views us, then it gives us a leg up on how we're supposed to view others. How do we view others? How do we look at them? Yes, Lynn.
Quick story. I knew a girl, sort of casually, through a work environment. She was very beautiful. And I noticed at lunch that she sat alone. Nobody sat with her. And I'm a single girl, and I figure she's got men hanging off her elbows. The Vogue is calling her weekly. She makes more money than I do. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, one day I went over and I had the occasion to sit by her. She and I spoke for a while, and I discovered that she was a very lonely person. Because of her beauty, she had no girlfriends. They were either jealous of her, afraid of her, or whatever. They couldn't compete with her. And the boys, she didn't date. The boys were afraid of her. Because why would she go out with them? She obviously had lots of dates. And it was, what does that mirror do? It poisoned a whole bunch of people's view of her through their own perception. What a great question. What a wicked thing to do. But she was not a happy girl. And from our eyes, she had all. She had nothing.
Lee Trickle.
You know, it's amazing. You look in the mirror and look at yourself, and then somebody gives you a picture they took of you, and it's like, oh, that doesn't look that good. So you think more of yourself, and you do the picture, and it's like, they got my bad side there.
All right.
I didn't have any right here.
Did I see your hand up?
You realize that you've never seen yourself. Only other people see you. You've never really seen yourself.
True.
Because when you look in a mirror, in fact, Jenna and I had the argument the other day. She said, "Oh, I look terrible today." I said, "No, you're beautiful." I said, "But you've never seen yourself. You don't know that."
Good answer, Frank.
Because the mirror distorts.
You still have that corner of wisdom, Richie.
You silly.
I'm going to read one more time out of the message because I love it. I'm reading out of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and it says, and I love this, I don't know about you, but I'm running hard for the finish line. I'm giving it everything I've got. No sloppy living for me. I'm staying alert and in top condition. I'm not going to get caught napping, telling everyone else all about it, and missing out myself. I think sometimes in our lives we just are so, we find ourselves busy. Look at us. Yes, Alan.
You know, you keep talking about moving towards God, trying to be better and better and better. I remember an old man. I used to love to sheep pool, and I went out and I practiced for a couple hours, and I said, "That's good enough." And he said, "No, it's not. When you think it's good enough, that's as good as you get. When you think you're good enough. When you think you're good enough for God, that's as good as you're going to get."
Very good. And I think the things that keep us from that are when we compare ourselves to others, when we think that somebody else has got it all together, or they've got everything, and we don't realize that we might be that person that they need, and when we ignore the needs in others. And so I love this thing, is I'm not stopping, and instead of talking about it, I need to do it. And I think, Rick had the challenge. We talked about, this challenge of, and I think that's all of our challenge is how do I reach out to others? And I'm not saying like Bob. I'm saying is how do we extend the hand of Christ in a way that's acceptable and received, and in a way that just honors Him? How do we do that? And so that's what I'm challenging you this week. Love. It's all about love. It's all about love. So that's it for today. And Reed, you have something else you want to add? Go for it, Reed.
We have the best example that's ever been on earth.
Amen.
To follow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever try and reach it, that's our goal.
It is.
Hey, read the last line on page 67. Make the word again.
I can do it. Oh, okay, talking about Bruce again. Just says, lose the wax. Don't fake it. Sync it up. Go be you. Because you're the best you can be. Okay, thank you for your patience. If all y'all don't show up next week, I'm going to have a really bad complex about myself. Because you got one more week with me before Ross is back, and you can appreciate him greatly. Do we have any prayer concerns?
Just going to mention, we got 2 Emmaus walks coming up. We need to keep those people in our prayers.
Yes, 2 Emmaus walks coming up, a man's and a woman's walk coming up. So keep the pilgrims, keep working it in your prayers. Tina and David had to go be with a relative that is ill, so they asked for prayers for that. Yes, Don Story.
I've asked for prayers. I'm going to have a bladder biopsy next Monday. They found something that looks suspicious. That's the only way to find out. So I appreciate the prayers.
Yes, Lynn.
This is not a prayer concern. It's Sunday night. Did anybody watch God Friended Me?
I did.
Oh, yeah.
I want us, everybody, to make an effort to watch this. I think it's going to be a nice show, so that the TV guys will know what you watch, so they won't cancel it, because it's one of the only things that
The show is called God Friended Me. It's on
Yes.
Sunday evening.
Sunday evening at 7 o'clock.
I think it's on
7 o'clock?
CBS.
Sunday night.
What night? What channel?
What channel is it on? 2?
Channel 11.
11?
CBS.
Do the
Okay.
Astros play at that time?
Wow! Wow! Right. Truby, did you have something?
Forgive me, God.
Truby, did you have something?
I would appreciate prayers for my daughter. She's having back surgery tomorrow through the throat because it's right here in her neck.
Oh, wow.
She's a teacher, and she's had a lot of pain in her shoulder and her left arm for a long time. And finally, she got to thinking about doing something, and we insisted she go. And these two fingers quite often kind of won't work, and she's left-handed, and she's a school teacher.
Wow.
She's always taught. She could retire, but she's still teaching. She finally got the last kid through college and is paying for it. But she's always taught in the Title I schools. She says, I guess that's where my career has been, because she's always taught there. And nearly a third of her students, she teaches junior high at, for being junior high, or have that thing beside their name, homeless. So she needs to get back. She doesn't really want to because some of these kids are horrible. But she's a good teacher. And she needs to be able to get back. But she's having that surgery tomorrow.
What's her name?
Diane Elizabeth.
Alan, did you have a prayer?
Dick Whitehead, he's starting chemo and radiation for throat cancer.
Wow. Okay. Dick Whitehead, Brenda's husband. All right. And I asked for prayers for my grandson, Davis. He went in yesterday for his treatment that he goes in every 4 weeks. And it's the good news, bad news. Good news, no chemo, no new tumors. The not so great news, let me put it that way. The not so great news, his left eye, which is his only good eye, 2 of the tumors that were active last month are still active, and then one that they thought was gone is kind of back. So they're retreating him again. So just, he is 10 months old. But he is a growing boy, and he is, ask his sister, very active. Her toys are not safe anymore. He might only have one good eye, but he knows where to find her stuff. And he gets it. She is now grappling behind closed doors, pulling everything into her bedroom, away from him. So, anyway, I just ask for your prayers for my son and his wife and grandson. So, all right. Keep Randall Hicks. Yeah, please keep Randall. He is. I saw him this morning. I know. He said he's a little stir crazy at home, and until his immunity thing drops where he can't be around people, he wanted to be around. He has pancreatic cancer.
Randy Nix?
No, Randall Hicks.
Randy Hicks. I know who he is.
Yep. He is our go-to guy.
He looks
so. All right, if that's it, I'll close this in prayer. Heavenly Father, you hear our prayer concerns, we pass them up to you, and we share them with each other. Because when we invite you into our lives, we are all together. Lord, we share our concerns, we share our praise, we laugh. And Lord, I think there are times that you take joy in the fact that we internalize some of the things that we read and realize that we need to live forward. I pray, Lord, that you will continue to speak into our lives. Let us be here for each other, Lord, and as we leave this room into a world that desperately needs you, I pray that you will help us to be bold in ways that you can use us. That will probably amaze us. Lord, be with Ross while he's away, and bring him home safely, and let him enjoy his time away. It's in your son's name I pray. Amen.